What upgrades should you go for early to middle game in Dying Light the Beast, especially for brutal difficulty? So let's go over the major things that are important. So the first thing you should probably get is the bandage upgrade because it allows you to heal faster and it allows you to heal for more. And bandages are going to be the main thing you're using to heal with for early to middle game. And generally, they're really abundant and easy to craft. So this is a pretty good one to invest in immediately. So the way it works, the way crafting works and upgrading is you have blueprints that can be upgraded and then you can craft things. Now, if you're talking about like a thing like a bandage, when you craft future bandages, it'll make them epic, or in the future legendary if you get to end game. And essentially what you want to do is upgrade this right away. And for tools, it just upgrades the tool itself. So the UV flashlight, which I highly recommend investing in, the upgrades increase the cone size so that you can hit more zombies with it, which allows you to stagger more zombies. So pretty huge advantage to crafting UV flashlight. For weapons, like gadgets, we'll start with gadgets and we'll get into weapons. So gadgets are like throwables and like usable items, like mines and things like this. The Molotov cocktail is really good to upgrade. It doesn't seem like it's that good up front because it does damage over time, but the damage over time is very substantial, so I highly recommend upgrading this first over like the grenade. Now the grenade can do huge damage too, don't get me wrong, but it is easier to craft Molotovs. You only need rags, resin, and alcohol, whereas with hand grenades you need a lot of cans and to some degree a decent amount of alcohol, but the main limiting factor on grenades is going to be cans. So you can craft fewer grenades than Molotovs, and Molotovs do deal meaningful damage over time. That's also good against bosses and good for just burning groups of zombies down. Now, for things like the decoy grenade, you could run these, and these are good. They do consume cans, which I would rather send into hand grenades, but decoy grenades can be good for balling up groups of zombies, and then you can throw a Molotov at them. For the other things, for things like throwing knives can be good because you can instantly kill a zombie that grabs you before they damage you. That can be nice. I don't really run them too much because that does consume them, but I have seen people using them and they are good. They do deal pretty good damage and they are quiet. So if you want to run like a crossbow or a bow and you want to have like a silent like headshot throwing weapon, throwing knife is pretty good. There are other knives as well, but we'll get into that in a future video. So for basic things, definitely go for bandages, like bandage upgrade, UV flashlight upgrade, and then Molotov upgrade. Molotovs are really overpowered right now, at least for early to middle game. For weapons, so the way weapon upgrades work is you get recipes for weapons, like blueprints for weapons, and you can craft those weapons, and then you can also upgrade those weapons under weapon enhancement. So what weapon enhancement does is if you have a weapon that is below your level, you can upgrade it for crafting materials to upgrade it to your level. So you can see right here, I can take this level 1 rare pistol and upgrade it to a level 9 rare pistol that has 440 base damage. So this is huge value because as you get further in the game, enemies are going to be tougher. There's going to be more difficult enemies with more health. So upgrading your weapons to your current level is a good idea. Now, should you upgrade your weapons every level? I don't recommend that. So you're going to burn through a lot of resources doing this. So I would wait like 2 to 4 levels before you consider upgrading it, unless you're really struggling and you're sitting on a lot of resources. But you can see that it does cost quite a bit of resources if you were to just continually upgrade your weapons. So make sure you're careful about how often you upgrade. Now, it does seem to be the case that different weapons have different upgrade costs. So for example, this rare pistol has 74, so you need 74 scrap, 10 rags, 1 leather, 4 gun parts to go from 1 to 9. But then this epic pistol requires 45 scrap, 12 rags, 3 leather, 3 more rags, I don't know why those are split, and then 8 gun parts. So even though this is only going from 6 to 9, it costs twice as many gun parts. So pay careful attention to what you're getting. So it seems to be the case that higher quality rarity costs more to upgrade, which makes sense because usually there's like features of the guns, maybe it has like an optic or something. Like The assault rifle, this is the marksman rifle, but the assault rifle in rare form has a red dot, so it costs you a little bit more to enhance that. Then for the actual weapons themselves, you can forge the higher tier blueprints, which is pretty nice. So right now I'm in the epic tier, which is around like level 6 to 9, and then beyond that, probably like level 10 to 11, maybe level 11 plus, you can start to get expert manual pages, which then allow you to forge into legendary. But look at the crafting cost to forge into legendary, it's quite high. So make sure you play around with weapons and get a feel for what weapons you actually like before you commit to making things legendary, because it's going to burn through a lot of resources. And also, you want to make sure that you actually like the weapon, you're used to the weapon, and the weapon is good, because you could upgrade a weapon and just hate it. So for example, the buzzsaw launcher, I like this weapon, but it seems to be difficult to run because the ammo is very expensive to craft. And that is a thing to consider as well. So if we look at like the crafting costs of projectiles, bolts and arrows, very cheap. I would say if you like the bow, use the bow. If you like the crossbow, use the crossbow. I would always carry one because it's very easy to get feathers and scrap, especially if you go to merchants and buy them. So generally, you can always craft at least a few arrows to get you through like a difficult encounter. Whereas with the saw blade ammo, you have to have 5 leather, 3 blades, and 20 scrap. And the real limiting factor are the leather and to some degree the blades for this ammo. You do get 2 per shot, and as far as I can tell, you can't recover it, or at least it's difficult to find when you shoot it. So of the 3, like bow, crossbow, and saw blade, I would say like crossbow and bow are a little bit better. Saw blade does have bigger burst damage, so maybe you just save it for like boss fights and stuff. But it does, I think when you get it, it's already a legendary, so you don't have to like improve its recipe. You just have to like forge it up to your level. There's also the flamethrower, which is unlocked through perks, but generally, you're going to want to increase bandages, Molotovs, and UV light. I think those are the best things because melee weapons are really good. So you're going to be like tagging enemies with UV light. You're going to be healing with bandages. Molotovs seem to be like one of the best things for beating bosses right now. I don't know if there's fire immune enemies, but if there's not, this might just be like one of the best, cheapest spam things that just wins fights. So that might be the case. Like right now, how many of these can I make right now? I can make like a ton of them. I can make like an absurd amount of Molotovs. Like it's such a good, oh yeah, I can just go the other way. It's such a good, so I can make like 50. Such a good weapon, such a good tool. And then of course we have the melee attachments. So this also matters too, because every single melee weapon can have melee attachments. And you're going to want to attach these to your melee weapons to give them additional properties. And the way they work is it applies an effect based on a condition. So crit mod activates on critical hits. So the nice thing about the burn mod is if you set an enemy on fire after critting it, you can kick that burning enemy into other enemies and set them all on fire, which is pretty nice. But there's different procs. So like there's apply on crit. There's applies when active. So you have to like build it up and then you have to release it and then it will, freeze in this case or shock in this case. Now you can upgrade these as well. So most things are upgradable. So if I want to invest in the shock, I can upgrade the blueprints, which is pretty cool. So if you have a particular melee weapon attachment you like, so you can see like what it changes. So it's pretty good if you want to run, like I like the shock one. It's good for crowd control, but burn is also good. They're all good. It's really up to you as to what preference you have and which one you value the most. But I like the shock one. The burn one's also really nice. And there's different ones. There's like venom and all this stuff. So play around with it. Have a good time. Experiment to see with what items you actually enjoy using and what weapon mods you enjoy using, and then upgrade and invest in those weapons. But definitely try them out before you invest in them, because if you don't constantly salvage and explore, like, dismantle and loot, you can burn through resources really quick in the early game, especially in like the middle game if you're not careful when there's more difficult enemies around. So make sure you invest in the things that you actually feel like are giving you value. But that is it for this one. Definitely drop a comment as to what weapons you like, what upgrades you think are the best to go for early, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.